Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna Lee and I'm so glad that you guys clicked on this video. So today is my last official wrap up of 2025, which is crazy to me. I cannot believe that is already 2026. When did that happen? I can't even. Although I will admit that 2025 was not the best year for me and my family, so when the clock struck 12, I was not gonna lie, I felt very happy to see that it was a new year. But we're gonna move on from that because I don't want to get into it. So anyway, today we are going to be talking about all of the books that I read in both November and December. I don't even know how many books in this collection. I think I read 5 or 6 books in November, and then I read 5 books in December. Some of these I don't have a physical copy of, so I will insert a picture of those books when I get to them. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right on into it. So first up, we have To Bargain with Mortals by R.A. Basu. This is a book that I originally received as a digital ARC through NetGalley, and then it got released during the time that I was reading it, so then I read the rest of it in audiobook form. Yeah, so this book is about these kind of 2 different families. We have these set of brothers who, they have another brother that was kidnapped in like a police raid, and they are doing whatever they can to get their brother back, and they're not the best of people, so they're kind of doing everything that they can, and it may not always be legal. And then you have this another family where there's this woman who, she's been in like finishing school up until this point, and she finally was able to get out of it and is wanting to kind of put her like place and like kind of give herself kind of a like you know, like give herself some authority basically in this world. And this world is set on this island where it's kind of hard to explain, but it's basically where there are these certain types of people, and the woman that is a main character in this book is one of them, that is kind of just seen as a lower being, which is very reminiscent of what's going on in our history and possibly even present day for some people. What? Who said that? Anyway, but yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave this 4.4 stars or 4.25 stars. I've started doing quarter ratings because I now have a different reading tracker app. I'm now on Fable instead of Goodreads, and I can do quarter rating, and it's been a blessing. So I think I gave this 4.25 stars or 4 stars. I'm not really sure because I liked it, but it wasn't like my favorite. I think there was just some things that kind of went over my head a little bit. And there were times I felt like where the pacing was maybe a little slow, but honestly, like, I still really enjoyed it. I love the characters way more than I thought I would. And I would have to give Emma Skies a huge shout out. She is one of my favorite bookish social media people. She's on TikTok and Instagram and here on YouTube. And I get quite a few book recommendations from her. And this is actually a book that she published through, oh God, what is their publishing? Through a publishing company, basically, where people in the book talk community can help authors publish their books. And so Emma Skies helped this author, R.A. Basu, publish this book. And so I have to say, for R.A. Basu, I think they're starting off on a really great foot, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think that this is a really great start. This is the first book in a series. I'm not sure if it's going to be a duology or if it's going to be a trilogy or beyond that. I'm not really sure as of right now, but I really enjoyed this, and I definitely will want to pick up the second book and kind of see where this story goes because I did enjoy it. All right, the next book that I read is kind of a remnant of a spooky read that I wanted to finish in October but didn't get to it in October because it's kind of chunky, and that is the spell book of Katrina Van Tassel, A Story of Sleepy Hollow by Alyssa Palombo, I think is how you say her last name. This is a Sleepy Hollow retelling, and I did say when I made my spooky season TBR, if you want to go ahead and check out that video, it's on my channel. this was one of the books that was on there, and I said, because I actually have a few Sleepy Hollow retellings, that I wanted to get to at least one of them. And so this is the one that I picked up. This is set as a historical fiction, and I have come to really love historical fiction. I've read quite a few this year, and this was one of my favorites. I really enjoyed this. I think I gave this 4.5 stars, and yeah, I really love it. So basically it's a story of Ichabod Crane and the Sleepy Hollow. He meets Katrina Van Tassel, and they kind of start a secret relationship, and then on All Hallows Eve he goes missing, and it's kind of the story of Katrina wanting to know where Ichabod went and kind of her life after everything happened on All Hallows Eve. And I really enjoy this. I loved the prologue. It pretty much was like, hey, everything you knew about the story of Sleepy Hollow is wrong. It's wrong, and here's the correct story. So that was kind of fun. I really loved it. If you love a good historical fiction and you're wanting to kind of think of something for spooky season next year, I would totally pick this up because it was a great read. It was a great read for spooky season because it wasn't too creepy, but it was also super fun. I loved the setting of it, the time period with it being shortly after the American Revolution. So they're talking about like the new world and how's this country gonna be and all that kind of stuff. It was just such a fun read, and I would totally recommend it. So the next book that I have, I do not have a physical copy of because it is a book that I read digitally through NetGalley. So I will put a picture of the cover here. Basically what this book is, it's called The Midnight Book Club, and it is a book, and it's about this woman who acquires her aunt's shop after she passed away, and she is woken up in the middle of the night by noises in her like bookstore downstairs, and she comes to find out that her bookstore has this magical realism element where if you put a book on the recommended table shelf or table, two people from those books come to life in the bookstore during the night. When I tell you this was such a fun book for a book lover like me, like this was so much fun. Like what a fun concept. Like it reminded me a lot of a novel love story, which is another kind of book within a book kind of magical realism element, as well as the in-between bookstore. Both of those books were about books and it had like a magical realism element. So if you liked those books, I would totally recommend picking this one up because it was just so fun. And it was also kind of centered around this man who is from this classic, what is the name of it? Anna something. I think it's a French novel, and it made me want to read a classic. Who would have thought that a modern book would make me want to read a classic? It's happened, people. It's happened. I can't. This was such a fun book, though. I loved the concept of it. I loved the characters. I loved the story. It was just such a fun read. I did give it 4 stars because, you know, it wasn't like the best book I've ever read. But I feel like if you're wanting something fun with magical realism or a book about a book, this is such a great book to pick up. It's been out in the world now for a couple of months almost. And so I totally recommend that you pick it up and give it a shot because it's just such a fun read. It really is. I had so much fun reading this when I was reading it. I loved everything about it. And it really made me kind of think about like characters and kind of, you know, because a lot of people talk about how, you know, when they're reading a book, they always have that kind of thought process of like, these characters' lives go on after the book has ended. Like in the books that they are in, their worlds like continue. They, you know, they kind of have that thought process. And so the fact that somebody went out and created a book kind of based on that was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend that you pick it up. And thank you so much to NetGalley for letting me pick that book up and read it. So the next book that I read is another book that I originally wanted to finish in October for like fall spooky season, but just never got around to it, and I didn't end up finishing it until November, and that is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. I finally started the Dream Harbor series, and honestly, I'm glad that I did. I decided to pick it up originally on my Kindle one day, and I was like, I want to see what the hype is all about. And this was just such a fun small town romance. I did give it 3.5 stars because, again, it's like not much really happens in this book. There isn't a lot of plot, but it was still a very cute read. It was still a very fun read. I do want to continue the series because I do believe like these books will be very good palate cleansers if I ever pick up like a really heavy book in terms of like content or trigger warnings or just, you know, length. You know, I feel like these books will be really good for that. And yeah, I enjoyed the main characters. I thought they were fun. I enjoyed the town so much. And honestly, like if you are wanting to pick this book up and you love just a fun, fluffy little romance, I would totally do this. I would definitely keep this in mind for next year. And yeah, I think it's a fun read. Again, not the most plot heavy, but it's still really cute, and I'm glad that I finally picked this up. Wicked! Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. It was a book that I wanted to read because, as we all know, in November, Wicked for Good finally came out, and I love the movie, by the way. I love both of the movies. I thought both of the movies were fantastic. I've seen the stage musical, and I would highly recommend it if you have any inkling to see it. Love those. And I was like, you know what? Being a book person, let's pick up the original like book that this stage musical and these movies are based on. Let's just go ahead and give that. And I knew that it was not going to be the exact same story because I have been warned by many people. I follow an Oz historian on TikTok, and she kind of let me know, like, point blank, like, this is not the same story that you see on stage or in the movies. Like, this is not. So I knew to expect something that was going to be quite a bit darker, quite a bit more political. But instead, what I got was a book that just tracked on and on and on into what the heck. It was just... Elphaba was the most annoying character, and I could not stand her. There were so many moments where I was just like, what are we doing here? What is happening? Why are we doing this? Like, can we get to the point? Like, can we get to a point, please? Yeah, I did not like this book very much. It was not... I'm glad that I read it. I'm glad that I was able to kind of see where the story started. And I can kind of see where the inspiration for Wicked the musical and subsequently the movies, where that all came from. But at the same time, I was like, how did you get that from this? And I know that sounds really mean, and it is really mean, and I apologize if anybody who loves this book, or even the author itself, I doubt he's watching this video ever, but if he is ever watching this video, Gregory, I am sorry for saying it like that, but how? This was just, it was just not, it dragged, and it was boring, and it was confusing, and I didn't like it. Like, I was okay with a darker story. I was okay with a more political story, but instead, I just feel like we were just running around in circles for however many pages this is. Yeah, glad I read it, but I prefer the stage musical and the movies. All right, so the next book that I read is another book that I do not have with me. I only read it digitally, so again, put a picture here. This book is called Hemlock Lane, and I did talk about it previously in one of my other videos, and if you've seen that video, you know which my kind of thoughts and feelings on it already. But basically, this is about a book about a family from in the 1960s who just have a lot kind of going on in their life. There's a lot of changes that are going to be happening to them, and there's also a lot of secrets that a lot of people are holding, and it's kind of the story of like how these people came to be and kind of the changes that are happening in their lives. And honestly, I didn't have a great time with this book. I think I gave it like a 3.25 stars, something like that. I'm not really sure. And what really, and I talked about this in length in my worst books of 2025, because I did put it in there. And honestly, if you want to know my full thoughts, you can check out that video. But what I'm going to say here is just the fact that I do love a character-driven story, but in my mind, this was too character-driven. I felt like there was not enough going on in the present day to where I wanted to keep reading about the backgrounds of all these characters. Because that's basically what this was just a bunch of background on all these different characters and how they came to be with, you know, with each other. And I didn't really care. I really didn't. I just felt like, can we get something going on? Like, can something happen? And it just, plus the structure of it was kind of weird to me. Like, there was a lot of just the way that the chapters were structured was just, it was weird. So yeah, I didn't hate this book, but I didn't really love this book. So yeah, it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't the greatest, but not every book is. So after I finished Hemlock Lane, I decided to pick up this book because I wanted to try and put in a few more wintry seasonal books in December, because I really had never done that before. So this is the first book that I picked up with kind of that in mind, and this is A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the I know it's technically a novella, but I call it the fourth book in the ACOTAR series because, anyway, but this is the next installment in the ACOTAR series. I only have one more book left as of right now, and that is insane to me. How is that even possible? Anyway, this is the second ACOTAR book that I read this year, and honestly, I loved this. I thought it was so fun. I thought it was really cute. It's basically the gang of characters kind of celebrating the winter solstice, and also kind of giving us a little, like, beginner kind of plot points for more than likely upcoming plot points in the last book in the ACOTAR series as of right now, because I know that people, Sarah J. Maas, I'm pretty sure, is writing the next book. But anyway, I loved this. I thought that this was such a great little fun break. I know not everybody is a big fan of this book, and they kind of are just like, can we get back to the point? But I think that this was nice. I'm glad that I read it during this time of year, like this, like, wintry, Christmassy time of year, because I feel like if I hadn't, I probably would have had the same opinion. But the fact that I waited until like December before Christmas to read it and kind of put myself in the mood, I think that helped a lot. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about like a lot of the characters and everything because I don't want to spoil anything for the series. But just know, I really did love the characters. Feyre and Rhys are still goals in my mind. I love them so much. And I'm very excited to see where Nesta's story in particular goes, because I'm pretty sure the last book, A Court of Silver Flames, is about her and her story, I think, from what I've kind of gathered. So, yeah. I loved this. I think I gave this 4.5 stars. So, it was good read. And the snowball fight? Cutest moment ever. Oh my god. This was such a cute moment. Alright, next up is a book that I have kind of been putting off, and I finally finished a trilogy. I finally finished a trilogy, guys. Oh my god. I finally finished as the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy by Holly Jackson. This was the last book in that trilogy. This is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, and I cannot believe I'm already done with this series. That is insane to me that this is over. I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4.5 stars. Again, because it's the last book in a trilogy, I'm not going to really say anything about what happens, but just know that Pip, after the events of what happened at the end of book 2, she's still really affected by it, and then something really crazy happens to her, and then she goes crazy. She goes quite crazy. And this book took a twist that I did not expect. I did not expect the plot that happened in this book to happen. I did not think it was going to go that way, but you know what? I mean, it's fair. It's very fair. And yeah, so if anybody is thinking of picking up this trilogy, I say go for it. I really enjoyed it. I loved the character of Pip. I thought she was a really fun main character throughout the trilogy. I also loved the character of Robbie. I loved the character development that kind of he went through. And the stories in each of the books were fun. You know, I liked that they all kind of were their own, but at the same time they connected with each other really beautifully in each book. I feel like the way that this book ended was, you know, good. You know, I'm very much a rule follower, so kind of the way that, you know, I probably wouldn't have done what Pip had done in this book, and I probably wouldn't have made the decisions that she had made, but you know, I'm not Pip. So yeah, I really enjoy this. And if and if Holly Jackson ever wants to make a spin-off series about this or anything in this world, I would not be mad about it. Holly Jackson, I doubt you're ever watching this, but if you are, make something else in this world. Please, I'm begging you. All right, next up in this wrap up is my Christmas Eve read. So I kind of did the same thing that I did on Halloween, where I picked a nice short little book to read on Christmas Eve just to kind of get myself in the mood of Christmas. And I ended up reading The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffman. And this is based off of the ballet, which is very well known, especially in the dance world. And the music is originally by Tchaikovsky. You probably have heard the music. Even if you don't think you have, you probably have. It's very well known. And I really loved this book. I did give this a 5-star because it was just such a fun time. And the audiobook, that's honestly what made it a 5-star, was the audiobook. Because I know I probably would have enjoyed this if I had just read this physically, but having that narrator and that particular like audiobook, it was a shout out to her. I loved the narrator. Like there was like a full cast of characters for each character in here, which also I think helped. And then they were also playing the Nutcracker music in the background in some scenes, and like it was just such a fun time. I really enjoyed this. There were some plot points that aren't really normally in the ballet, which were kind of a little strange for me and kind of jarring, because I was like, that's not what I'm used to. But I really did enjoy this. I thought it was a fun Christmas Eve read. I'm glad that I read this. And yeah, this was fun. So if you're thinking of picking up something kind of short and sweet for next year for the Christmas season, if you celebrate, I would totally recommend The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffman. And read it in audiobook form because I really loved it. All right, and then last but not least is a reread. I only reread 3 books this year, which that is kind of my goal for next year, is that I will hopefully be able to reread more books next year. I probably would have if Fourth Week did take nearly 6 months to read. That sucked. Anyway, so I decided to reread The Lost Apothecary. And for those guys who do not know, this is the book that really truly got me back into reading. This was actually the second book that I read when I got back into reading back in late 2023. And I really did not like the first book that I read. It was not a great book for me. So I decided to pick this up just to kind of have a little bit of a change, and I am so glad that I did. It is about, there's 2 timelines. There is Nella and Eliza in the 1790s, and then there's Caroline in the present day. And Nella is an apothecary, and she basically makes things that will for women that will help them kill their husbands if they are not good people. That's basically it. And I really enjoyed this book. you know, this wasn't the amazing 5-star read that it was when I first read it, but you have to understand, when I read this the first time, it was my second book that I had read after years of not reading at all. So I kind of knew in my head that it was probably overhyped in my mind a little bit, and I'm kind of glad that I read this just to kind of bring it down a notch. I still gave this 4.5 stars though. I still really enjoyed it. I loved going through Caroline's research and kind of seeing how the story of the past and the story of the present really connected with one another. I really loved that. And what's funny is that my favorite book of this year, my favorite new read of this year, I should say, is pretty much the exact same thing. So clearly I have a type of book that I like. So yeah, love this book. I love Sarah Penner. She's an amazing author, and I definitely want to reread The London Seance Society, which is another book that I read kind of in my early days of reading, and then of course read her new book that just came out this year, which is The Amalfi Curse. I still have not read it, but yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and yeah, I'm glad that I reread this. So those are all of the books that I read in both November and December. I cannot believe that those were the books that I ended the year. But anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing day. I cannot believe, like I said, it is 2026 already. I cannot believe it. It's insane. So I hope everybody has a great year. And I also have some other videos that I'm going to be filming in January. So I hope you guys will keep watching, and I hope you guys will like, comment, and subscribe. And with that being said, everyone, Happy New Year, and I will see you guys later. Bye.